pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Schaefer.
Here.
Wakeman.
Here.
Mottola.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
Appleton. Sorry, Wakefield.
Here.
Champagne. Okay. Bush. Here. Campbell.
Here.
Tedford.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Latender.
Here.
Chambers. Here. Report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for citizens forum?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Please,
My name
please turn the microphone on. Push the button. There you go. Then just pull it down for you.
Thank you. My name is Richard Ciolo. I live at 108.5 West Street in Bergen. I've lived there for 43 years. I'm addressing the council about blight in my neighborhood and the whole town of Bergen, and about maneuvering around the law and regulations by the people that cause blight. Each one of us pays taxes each year on our property. I feel it is unjustified for us who care for our property must pay higher taxes than those who let their theirs deteriorate. I am therefore going to appeal my property taxes on my house until the blighted areas in my neighborhood is addressed and improved. Recently, the owner of 106 West Street was fined $100 per day from 10/02/2015 until 01/01/2016 by the Vernon Building Zoning Officer if he had not made the certain repairs to his house that were dictated by the Town of Vernon Board of Appeals. Since he, the owner, had not made the repairs on time, he would be fined approximately $9,000 from that time period, just for that 90 days, plus, from my understanding, $100 a day until the repairs were made. As the local newspaper states, Mr. Poulios owes in excess of $47,000 in fines already and seems to have no intention of paying the fines or fixing the problems he has the houses that are blighted. I have heard from 3 public officials that it is not the money they're going after that are blighted. I have heard but cleaning up and fixing up the properties. I also hear, on the other hand, that the town does not have the funds to go after the owners and take the properties away from them and razz the buildings, if not worth saving. Would not these fines help to clean the properties up and resell the land? I and my neighbors live with this problem each day. I have gone to the mayor, I've gone to the town administrator, I've gone to the town official, building official. Yes, I've even gone to the Journal Inquirer and trying to bring this blight to the whole town's attention and the impunity of the offender's attitude. It is easy to see that from past experience, the person has no intention of paying his fine to the town, even though Mr. Poulios had stated he has sufficient funds to make the necessary repairs when he was at the Board of Appeals addressed in November 2015. We see that the town has been more than lenient with Mr. Poulios. On 1/11, I called the mayor's office and explained to the secretary my reason for calling, and gave him my phone number and was assured the mayor would call me back. I did not receive a call back. I called the zoning officer that same day, and he didn't return my call. On this past Thursday, I called up the zoning officer, and he explained to me that he couldn't tell me what would happen with the fine that was levied on Mr. Poulios by the Town Board of Appeals. The mayor did not return my call that day. However, he called me up today and he said that he was out of the office all week and busy. What and when is the town of Vernon going to do something about not just 106 West Street, but all of the blighted areas that Mr. Poulias owns? When is the town of Vernon going to put an aggressive blight ordinance plan to use as a model for the whole state to follow? Why does the town let these blighted properties exist instead of making laws that, for example, says, in the event your property shows obvious signs of code violations and structural integrity, issues that the owner of the property be given 6 months with scheduled progress meetings happening once a month to concretely address these issues. If at the end of the 6 months, the town has the ability to condemn the property and seize it for demolition, repair, unpaid fines, and unpaid taxes. Mr. Poulias has owned the property at 106 West Street for 3 years and has not made one improvement to the property in the time he has owned it. I'd like to thank the town council for hearing me in this evening and thank my neighbors that are present for their support. Are there any questions? If anybody would like to copy this letter or see the pictures from Mr. Poulias' properties, I have some of them here, and I'll be here at the end of the meeting. I thank you very much.
Joe Tarzi, 155 West Main Street, Rockville, Connecticut. In the past year, the town of Vernon has made significant strides in removing graffiti from public property. Stop signs, yield signs, bridges and tunnels that were plastered with graffiti when I moved to Rockville in 2014 have been wiped bare. Make no mistake, graffiti is still a problem, particularly on state and private property, but the problem has been seriously mitigated from public property. I give the utmost credit to the Vernon Greenway volunteers and especially Ken Kaplan's Rockville Volunteer Services for this change in our community. I also reserve some credit for myself and my gentle, consistent pestering of the Department of Public Works through SeeClickFix.com. Really, I cannot give enough credit to Public Works, and Anne Marie in particular, for stepping up their game and removing as much graffiti as they can from public property. When I pester Public Works about graffiti on private property, however, they rightfully and legally inform me that they have no jurisdiction to do anything about it. This leaves Connecticut Millworks along the rail trail plastered with graffiti. It leaves the former Rockville Glass Building across from the New England Motorcycle Museum plastered with graffiti. It leaves 43 West Main Street attached to our town's Economic Development Department plastered with graffiti. A vigilante group, which will remain unnamed for the purposes of this point, has made some progress in fighting blight and graffiti on private property, but the legality of such actions is questionable. Really, it should be the property owner's responsibility to remove graffiti in a complete and expedited manner. The town of Vernon, to the best of my knowledge, has no ordinance requiring occupied commercial and industrial properties to remove graffiti from their buildings. In the town of West Hartford, there is a very simple ordinance easily found online, which I will read in its entirety. The ordinance, named Removal of Graffiti Required, states, "No person shall permit graffiti to remain on any commercial or industrial property for a period of more than 72 hours after notification by the town manager or his or her designee." This simple ordinance, brought to my attention by my thesis advisor, a former town manager of West Hartford, is effective in keeping graffiti off of private, non-residential property in that town. My request is that one of my town councilors put forward a motion to adopt an ordinance similar or identical to the following. No person shall permit graffiti to remain on any commercial or industrial property for a period of more than 72 hours after notification by the mayor or his or her designee. I believe that simple sentence, added to the town of Vernon's Code of Ordinances, could make a world of difference not only in Rockville, but throughout the commercial and industrial areas of the town of Vernon. Thank you for your time tonight.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in citizen forum? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Carl Prevost. I live at 135 Greer Road here in Vernon. have been here before, and I'm sure they have some handouts, so I have them again for you. Can I just start them around? Here, and here. I'm representing the Friends of Bolton Lakes. Myself and another member of the board will speak to you this evening about what our plans are for the coming year. Update you on where we're at. But I wanted to start by just saying that this past year has been really another great validation of the recreational value and the value of the watershed, the Three Lakes, to the quality of life in the area. In Middle Bolton Lake, we had an open water swim race this year from Camp New Hocker. Swimmers came from all over New England to swim up to 3 miles in races, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and I understand they'll be back. It was a great event. In New Hocker, once again, if you're around Middle Bolton Lake, to hear the kids yelling out Marco Polo all the time, in the water, it's just a great thing. It was a very nice year. The upper lake, lots of kayakers this year. The water was up higher than usual in the lake all summer, and just a lot of kayakers coming from all over. A very enjoyable place. Unusual if you haven't had a chance. You think you're up in Maine. I mean, it's just a wonderful area in that watershed. And the Lower Bolton Lake had a sailing regatta and a lot of 5-pound bass, a number of 5-pound. I'm a fisherman, so a lot of 5-pound bass were caught down in the Lower Bolton Lake. So it was a pretty good year for them until the end of the year, and I'll come to that when there was an issue to deal with. And the summer also marked the completion of the installation of the sewers, which was a good thing. We're hoping that will be very beneficial to the environment and to the health of the area. And that's one thing, but the other was, it really marked, I think, a very good collaboration among 4 towns to deal with an issue in the watershed. I thought that was inspiring to us, the Friends of Bolton Lakes, to think that such a collaboration can be created and executed. We'd like to look for that in the future in efforts.
Community Voices having a bit of a problem, so if you'd use
sorry.
that would be awesome. We'll leave that one on.
Thank you. We thought that type of collaboration is a wonderful thing, and we take heart in that. We've now been, Friends of Bolton Lakes have been in existence for about 3 years now, and we've been gathering data through our own funded efforts, and also the town of Bolton has been paying for consultants to do work in looking at the issues that control the quality of water in particularly the Lower Bolton Lake. We also did a historical summary. We gathered data from the 1800s till now. It was quite interesting to look at the lakes and realize that they're really a river that was impounded in the 1840s to make impoundments for water supply to the mills in Willimantic. And there was normally a river that ran through. And so by creating these impoundments, we create this challenge of how do you manage the water flow and the nutrient flow and the health. And that's why we run into issues and interdict with procedures that we'd like to see. So that sort of has led us to certainly 2 conclusions that we're going to foster for the coming year. One is we need to foster more multi-town collaboration. And the other is that we need to get at looking at activities which get at the root cause of the problems that currently are facing the lakes. Or certainly supporting the healthy things that go on in the lakes. This past summer, the lower lake had an algae bloom that started in mid-August. It was treated chemically, and that knocked down the cyanobacteria that would create toxins, but the lake remained green from mid-August through. It may be green under the ice right now, remained green the whole rest of the summer. And so chemical treatment got at a symptom but didn't get at the underlying cause. And in fact, also now there are a couple of new invasive plants in the lower lake that had to be treated. So chemistry can be helpful, but we need to have other approaches as well that are also more economical in terms of dealing with the lake. So we're going to foster the idea of looking for these root causes, scientifically gathering data and using this approach to make decisions about how to go forward with the lake, and also to try and foster multi-town collaboration. We're also going to be a bit more proactive this year, particularly with the state. And in our advocacy, we'll mention 2 examples tonight. One is with regard to catfish stocking. Some of you may be aware, some may not, but The state started in about 2006 putting catfish, channel catfish in the lower lake as a sport fish. Unfortunately, it was about the time that the problems with the lake started, and finally algae blooms and excessive growth of weeds in the lower lake. We think catfish may contribute to that, and we're opposing further stocking with catfish. But the DEP wants to stock them again as a sport fish. That's their mission, the Department of Fisheries. What's very good is that Representative Gail Mulligan, State Representative Gail Mulligan, has decided to convene a group that we can be represented, the DEP is represented, the steep grant specialists are represented, and we can have a dialogue about that to make a decision. And we're very enheartened by that notion that people can come together, look at data, and make decisions as compared to just dumping the fish in the lake. So we're looking forward to more of that discussion and being advocates for that kind of approach. The second thing we will be talking about, and my colleague Dave Forrest will come up and speak, has to do with flow of the water through the lakes, and particularly from the upper lake into the middle lake through two culverts that go under Hatchell Road. What I handed out right now, if you would look at the second page, there you'll see, and I've shown you a map of this type before. This is the map of the watershed. But it's broken up into three regions, three drainage basins. The upper, which is Cedar Swamp, and is about 1,200 acres. The middle, which is Middle Lake, and the lower, Lower Bolton Lake. And over half of the watershed and its flow comes out of the upper lake through those culverts. And I'll leave it at that point and have the next speaker, Dave Forrest, take it. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Good evening, David Forrest, 82 Wildwood Road in Vernon. A belated happy New Year to everyone. This is my second time addressing the council. We were here in September and gave you an update of the happenings from the Friends of Bolt Lake at that time. And now what we're going to do is remind you again of some of the additional activities that are taking place with our organization. Again, we're a nascent organization. We're close to 2 or 3 years old. But in that time, I think we have garnered respect from both the towns of Bolton and Vernon, and also the state and energy protection. So with that, I wanted to bring to your attention most recent activities. I hope this microphone is close enough for you. Two of the things are the Hatchell culverts, which Carl just mentioned, and there is a project going on within the State Department, DEP, I'll call it right now. It's called the 70 Hazardous Dams Prioritization Project. The second thing I'd like to talk to you about is the importance of a multi-stakeholder resolve for the winter drawdown, and that is in place as we speak right now. The winter drawdown happens to be the lowering of both the middle and lower Bolton lakes, in addition to some abatement that happens in the upper Bolton Lake. And that's a key to most of these discussions right now, because the culvert, which is the first item, is the only water passageway that goes from the upper region of the Bolton Lakes Regional Watershed to the lower Bolton Lakes and its basin that goes out through lower Bolton into the Nod River. This area encompasses well over 50% of the watershed. And all that water that comes through the watershed goes through just those two culverts, sometimes. The effort that's going on was precipitated in the state DEP by a new mandate that we understand came through just recently, whereby any state-owned dam or any state-owned impoundment has to have at least a 2-year plan for emergency preparedness. Each one of those impoundments have to have it re-looked at and reviewed every 2 years. So what the state did is they sent out a consulting firm that did dam inspections throughout the state, and that's how they came up with this 70 dam that were in a hazardous state. I want to look at it for the town of Vernon as an opportunity, and that's twofold. One, it will help remediate some of the issues that go on in those culverts with the inability to maintain a flow through the watershed of that over 50% of the water. And secondly, we feel through the process in which the state is referring to, help Vernon from a budgetary area with minimal output financially for the town of Vernon. Because this, as I understand it, is being bonded, and the state is taking care of that. So one of the two things that I would like to get support for from the council is advocate for this prioritization list to raise the Hatchel culverts up on that prioritization list, and whatever means possible, using state legislative means or what have you, to move forward with wherever that winds up on the list. And the higher the better, because that's where the funding's going to go. And it's relatively, in my estimation, and I'm an engineer, but I'm not a civil engineer, to minimize the cost of that. So that might be a benefit to us. And secondly, and lastly, the second item that I was talking about is the multi-stakeholder identification of the understanding that's going through right now. In 2014, very quickly, we had a collaboration from the state, Vernon and Bolton, to look at a means of getting a controlled drawdown. That's been fairly successful. We want to continue that with this understanding, so each of the towns and the state, it's a leap to say that we'll sign off on it, but certainly get them together again in a meeting to just finalize that. And then, as Carl was saying, we have meetings going on, and I've got 30 seconds left, Dan. To have a meeting, we're going to be calling together the state representatives as well, and at least two of them have agreed to meet with the Friends of Bolton Lake, so we can now look at how they can advocate for us in the same manner. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for citizens forum? Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Thank you.
Your Honor, the Town Council, pursuant to the authority given in Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-206A, hereby moves to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter and invites Town Administrator John D. Ward and Dawn Massimo, Assistant Town Administrator, to attend.
Second by Bill. All in favor? Yes. We're in the executive session. We'll be back. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. A couple things have happened in the last month. We had the official groundbreaking of the restoration of Talcott Brothers Mill property on Main Street in Talkville. Anybody's driven by, doing a lot of clearing, the fence is up, and I think they're going full steam ahead. And if you haven't driven by, I recommend you do. The Toys for Tykes campaign had another successful year, providing toys, gifts, and clothing to Vernon's most needy residents. There were 328 children from 166 families. About 200 people assisted with the delivery that night. Donations were extremely generous this year. We were able to make hundreds of children very happy. We are proud of the job the Vernon Fire Department and all the volunteers do to make this project a success. I believe Polly was there and Laura Bush was there as well.
Julie and I were there.
Julie, I didn't see you guys.
You can't see me, that's
Julie and Brian were there as well.
And I just admitted to Julie that I put extra toys in the bag. So the kids who got my bag, Santa really came to town.
Wow.
I did the same thing.
All right, here we go.
Now we're going to be hoping you invite him back next year.
Members of Park West Apartments hosted a ribbon cutting for their most recent renovation of the Park West Apartments. Projects like this, where property owners take pride in their buildings and keeping them in good repair for the residents, is always a win-win for the town of Vernon. And we went on the grand opening, and they have a little community center, rec center now, and also had a tour of one of the apartments. They did a wonderful job rehabbing those. This Thursday, January 21st, Moe's Southwest Grill, a new restaurant, will open at their Vernon location in the Tri-City Plaza on Tocqueville Road. I enjoyed it. So. Now that the Hartford Hospital Healthcare Partners has taken over the old Adams Supermarket location and are officially open for business, the Tri-City Plaza storefronts are 97% occupied. Please take a moment and visit Moe's and the other businesses in Tri-City and welcome them. Moe's has specials all Thursday on the food, just let you know. And the grand opening is at, hold on a second, let me give you the time, in case anybody here wants to show up. I forgot to write it down on the 9:30 Thursday. In the morning. It's a little early for a taco, but come on. Consent agenda?
Your Honor, we move the consent agenda.
Seconded by Laura Bush. Any polls? Mr. Winkler?
Number 5, I believe, is the budget amendment request.
Okay, polling number 5. Are there any others? No? Steve?
Your Honor, I move the consent agenda less item 5.
Okay, all of those, did we need a second? We already seconded the initial. All right, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Resolved, the town council hereby approves budget amend requests number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 for fiscal year 2015-2016 as outlined in the budget amendment forms provided by James M. Ludica, Finance Officer.
Got a second? Second. Second by Laura Bush. All right, Mr. Winkler. Try again.
Yes, through the mayor, Mr. Ludicky, looking at amendment number 10. Now, we budgeted about $680,000, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we budgeted about $680,000 for revenue for the 2015-2016 fiscal year for permits and fees. And this says that we're going to put in an extra $40,000, representing 5%. Now, 40,000 is 5% of 2 million. So does that mean the total amount of permits and fees has gone up by $2 million over the 680 whatever thousand that we budgeted in the first place?
This is a pass-through.
Well, it's a 5% pass-through, correct?
Through the mayor, this account, right, it's a pass-through, and it is based on the 5% of the fees. There's what we have right now is just for 5 months, and it doesn't include, I believe there's a large expenditure out there. The total amount of building permits that affect this currently right now at 6 months is 1.1 million. So the 40,000 was just doubling what that amount is. There's some chances that amount will increase quite a bit before the fiscal year's end over. So that's why we asked for this amount.
Okay, so the $40,000 represents, is that the 5%? Is the $40,000 the 5% that we have to pay? Is that what we're budgeting for here?
Yes.
Okay, so that would mean that 40,000 is 5% of $2 million. And we already budgeted $680,000 worth of revenue in this account. So we're approaching $3 million in permits and fees. And I just want to be sure that's correct, or whether there's something else at work here.
No, through the mayor. No, that's, I mean, we've got, if you've got, 5% of 1.1 million, halfway through, you're looking at around, what, about 55,000. So that's, there may be a little bit more room here because of some of the anticipation to get through June 30th. May not just double the number, but it's a, again, it's just a number to try to get us through June 30th.
So anything we approve tonight will go to GEO TMS.
Through the mayor, that's what it's for.
Thank you. Number 12. I have served on some retirement negotiation teams. Number 1, to supplement the budget for the annual required contribution pertaining to the town defined benefit pension plan. Now that's the one for the managers, correct? The town hall and directors and stuff like that.
Through the mayor, this is from all of the participants that are in the defined benefit plan, Board of Education, Town Hall, Waste Treatment Plant, Cemetery, excluding the police, really. This isn't being asked for the police plan. Yeah, this is covering all the participants in the plan. Of that, the Board of Education participants make up about 41%.
Okay. You mentioned in 2 that it's a net increase in participants that led to the increase. In 1, did the actuarial assumptions change? Are there more people? Was there an unexpected payout? What caused the fund to be something that's usually pretty well calculated? What caused it to be $39,000 out of whack?
Through the mayor, there were several things that were done to the plan. One of them was to reduce the investment assumption from 7.25% to 7%, and another one was to update the mortality tables to the most current tables, which both of those have they were most of the impact that occurred. But another thing that was going on, and this is a little bit later, this is the January 1st, 2015 report. We're going to be doing the January 1st, 2016 report in a few months. We also had to implement the final GASB 68 into the plan, which made some adjustments to it. And the other one, too, is, as we mentioned, is that now, I think the impact of this plan is around $40,000, which is pretty close to what we're asking for. $40,000 in net employee contributions as new employees are being hired and put into the defined contribution plan, and the contributions have gone down just by approximately by that amount. So that's pretty much those are the items that impacted the increase in the contribution.
Thank you. Number 14. I do not have sufficient funds to pay for the testing and maintenance fees that are mandated yearly. Did we not budget for mandatory tests?
Through the mayor, obviously from this, not enough. The tests that have come in, I tried to put below it from the chief call, some of the things that they're doing now. You're probably going to see the request. You will see the request in the 2017 budget that's going to have to increase for this. What has happened, even in the year past, there was money that was moved from same account to cover some of the testing that was done. So it needs to be upgraded, They're not going to be, they're not going to have some of this type of testing vacated in any way. They're going to continue to do that, so it's just an increase in cost.
Okay, through the mayor, number 15. Through the mayor, number 15. I'm a little confused about the temporal patterning of this request. For instance, has any work, actual repair work to the dam, been done as part of the $65,000?
No work has been done. This is the topic for later on in the agenda to enter into the agreement with Natural Design Services. Nothing has proceeded beyond that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Steve?
Maybe being, Your Honor, maybe being picky here. Through you to Mr. Lurkin, please. This is on 15, the one I just finished with. The $40,000 is potential additional costs on the design scope. Is that correct? If that money is not utilized, does that get put back in the general fund and reflected in next year's budget?
Through the mayor, almost all that. What would occur is that by approving this tonight, if the council does so, it's going to be designated for Walker's Dam, and it's designated for design. If there's monies left over, it'll stay in that category, but we would still come back to the town council and designate it towards construction as well. So, because when the construction or repairs that are going to be done, there's going to be a significant amount that's going to be needed to do that. I think the estimate was, I think the total cost or something was around, correct me if I'm wrong, about $1.1 million. And so this is just a small supplement to it, and that's why it's being asked. That's why if the council does approve it, we would probably ask that if there's money left over, like I said, to go toward the repairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. New business number 1.
I have a question, please. I've been too slow. I would like to look at number 4. The gentleman who has been named is here. He's never been consulted that he was on the commission. He's in the back. Michael told me, and I just wanted to catch your attention at that. I didn't think it was important, but I want you to know that. He was never notified by mail or telephone. He was appointed to this, number 4 commission.
Yeah, he's being appointed tonight, and then he's going to get the packet.
But he wasn't informed that he was on the agenda. That was my point. Sorry.
Right. Usually anybody, they put an application in.
Right.
Once we get the application,
Okay.
then we come here and then we send it out.
Right.
Congratulations, you did get what you wanted.
But he was looking for it. He just walked in and saw his name there. That's all. Anyhow, I'm glad he's on. We'll be on.
All right, new business number 1.
The town council hereby resolves in accordance with chapter 12, section 9 of the town charter, that it is in the best interest of the town to waive the sealed bid requirements for the costs involving the installation of traffic booths and sensors on Dart Hill Road, Windermere Avenue, and Nyack Road for an amount not to exceed $14,800, and further authorize the town administrator to execute on behalf of the town of Vernon any instruments to that effect.
Seconded by Bill. Questions? Mr. Winkler.
Is a traffic loop something we dug up or something attached to a traffic light?
We dug it up.
So in the process of digging it up, it's destroyed?
Yeah, we have to replace it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else? No. All those in favor? Unanimous. New business number 2.
You may not go anywhere. Your Honor, request the town council authorize, turn the page. The town council hereby approves the disposal or sale of one Parks Department vehicle as disclosed on the fixed asset disposal request forms.
Seconded by Bill. Questions? Brian?
Just because I want to remind Bob of this past life. When somebody was on the council, and he used to say, I don't want to see our stuff like on the road in Willingdon, and, you know, being defensive, I said, well, I look at the comment and say, well, it is a mess, but it still says run, it says Port Lake.
But you would get that as well.
I'm in favor, but I just want to have an opportunity to do that. Right with those times.
Your words come back to bite you.
Thanks so much.
My tires are slashed.
Any other questions? No? All those in favor? Unanimous. New business number 3.
Resolved, the Vernon Town Council authorizes Mayor Daniel A. Champagne to enter into and sign any and all documents related to the memorandum of agreement between the State of Connecticut DEEP and the Town of Vernon for repairs to the Walker's Reservoir Dam.
Second.
Seconded by Laura. Questions? Bill?
To you, Mr. Mayor. If I understand the motion, we are going to go out for a design of how to fix the dams.
Yes.
And then there will be additional funds to repair the dams after that.
Right.
And those extra funds, when it comes time to spend them, that will come back to us in a subsequent motion.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Brian?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, some legal things are coming. When it says here the damage, like, whatever, it needed repair. Tire needed repair, or just along the usual lifetime of the dam?
I think the big issue here is prolonged maintenance, probably some capacity issues, catastrophic flow event. Most dams were never built to those standards. This would bring it up to firm. It's not imminently in danger. That's why this is the second one. We're doing the Valley Falls one presently. This agreement that you have before you is identical to the one that last summer we talked about for Valley Falls. Only that one was actually for design and for construction costs. The budget that was approved last year at $115,000 anticipated $50,000 with this agreement from the state of Connecticut, but also then provided $65,000 in other funds. We maxed out our benefit from the state grant at $75,000, 25 of ours, 50 of theirs. That's capped from the state's participation, but the estimate was still at 115, so there could be some additional funds that are necessary. Until the agreement is signed and we proceed with bids, we won't know what that cost is going to be.
And does the state participate in reconstruction?
They did with the program for Valley Falls. What certainly we would do is once we've identified the dam, the scope of the work, we see if there were still funds available through that grant program. And if there were, we'd be back at that time. If not, it would be an item on a capital budget item for over the next several years, perhaps, to fund whatever is necessary to do those improvements.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Mr. Winkler?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It may be my imagination, but it seems that weather is getting more violent. It seems that 100-year storms are coming more frequently than 100 years. And I even heard a 500-year storm was announced the other day. My question is, if there's anything to global warming, New England will be getting wetter. One of the few spots on Earth that will actually get wetter. Are any of the assumptions about what the dam might have to hold being altered over time based on weather patterns yet, or is that for the future?
Actually, that is indeed what's happening, where the 100-year storm, or 500-year storm, or 50-year storm was generated as a statistical number based on a couple of decades worth of information from probably the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Those numbers were updated not too long ago by the University of Connecticut. So to qualify as a 100-year storm, it now has a higher threshold because, as you say, we've had 3 100-year storms in the last 2 decades, and that's not really how it's supposed to work. It's conceivable that it doesn't have to wait 100 years, just a 1% chance at any given year we have a storm event. 5% is 0.2%. So it's a bit of a misnomer, but that's how it's commonly thought of. But those intensities are being looked at, then modified up, and consequently, even if it was designed for a 100-year storm back in the 50s, it is not the 2016 100-year storm.
So in the design work for this, you'll be using the new assumptions?
We would be using the current values that are accepted to DOT standards, and with dam safety unit of the DEP, I think we'll probably use the Cornell model, which is the most recent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Paul, you
Just, that's all right. You talked about the Valley Falls. Is that coming in on budget and on time?
Presently, the design is being developed. We had a very initial, probably a month's worth of work on it so far. I believe it's on time. I don't have any budget information yet. The bid for that was well within our available funds and the estimate. A little bit of depend on the scope of the actual construction to talk about the bottom line of the far end of it. But we should know that by certainly the fall of next year.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Any other questions? Bill?
Thank you, Your Honor. Having read through the documents associated with this project, including the state documents, if we consider right through the repair section, this is a pretty big project, and potentially could be. Who in the town will be the project manager of this overall project?
You're looking at it.
So you're going to make sure that we conform to all those state requirements and the state documents?
Absolutely. That's we would be using outside consultants to do the design, help us with the construction, procurement of the contractors, and the inspection, but our office would be coordinating all that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adoption of the minutes.
The town council waives the reading of the minutes of the regular town council meeting of December 15, 2015, and that minutes of said meeting be approved.
Seconded by Bill. Any corrections, deletions? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Your Honor, move to adjourn.
Seconded by Laura. All those in favor? Unanimous.